So Barack Obama, the so-called scandal-free messiah, melanated messiah of the modern left, y'all, he might have been knee-deep in a plot to undermine the 2016 election. Say it isn't so. Oh, wait, it is so. And the receipts are rolling in like thunder, and I am here for all of it. Let's get into it. You guys, welcome back to Unshakable with April Chapman, where we discuss all things social, cultural, political, and theological from a biblical perspective. I am your host, April Chapman, and welcome to the show. Y'all, today's episode, I know I'm late to the party, but hey, being tardy for the party, sometimes it is what it is. Today's episode is going to be fire because we're talking about something that the left, they just want us to ignore it. And it's this bombshell evidence pointing to Barack Obama's role in the Russiagate hoax, the attempted coup against President Trump, and what all of this reveals about the sinister power grabs of America's elite class. So take a look at this clip.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. At President Trump's direction and with the support and coordination with the House Intelligence Committee Chairman Rick Crawford, today we've released a declassified oversight majority staff report that was produced in September of 2020. The stunning revelations that we are releasing today should be of concern to every American. This is not about Democrats or Republicans. This has to do with the integrity of our democratic republic and American voters having faith that the votes cast will count. There is irrefutable evidence that detail how President Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false. They knew it would promote this contrived narrative that Russia interfered in the 2016 election to help President Trump win, selling it to the American people as though it were true. It wasn't. The report that we released today shows in great detail how they carried this out. They manufactured findings from shoddy sources. They suppressed evidence and credible intelligence that disproved their false claims. They disobeyed traditional tradecraft intelligence community standards and withheld the truth from the American people. In doing so, they conspired to subvert the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump in that election in November of 2016. They worked with their partners in the media to promote this lie, ultimately to undermine the legitimacy of President Trump and launching what would be a years-long coup against him and his administration. We're here today because the American people deserve the truth, they deserve accountability, and they deserve justice.
Now, I wanted you to see that, but according to reports from Fox News and the New York Post and other corroborating resources, they have recently uncovered evidence that strongly suggests that then President Barack Obama, yes, the same man who told us that hope and change would heal the nation, this man was fully briefed and even complicit in what we now know was a fabricated Russia collusion narrative. So in other words, it was a bunch of lies. Now, that doesn't shock any of us, but here's what I want to do. Let's break it down like this. In August of 2016, then CIA Director John Brennan, he briefed Obama about Hillary Clinton's campaign plan to tie Donald Trump to Russia as a means to distract from her email scandal. Y'all remember the email server scandal? Now, that's just not my theory. That's actually from the declassified notes and congressional testimony. Now, fast forward, the FBI, under the direction of Barack Obama's appointees, they opened an investigation called Crossfire Hurricane. And this investigation was built on nothing. Like literally nothing. The Steele dossier, fake. The Pfizer warrants, illegally obtained. And guess who was sitting at the top of all of this, just fully informed? Obama, the shadow king of the Democratic Party. That's what I'm about to start calling him. So let's just name some names, shall we? We have Barack Obama. Now, he's the figurehead who either knew everything or he was criminally negligent. Either way, guilt of betrayal. Then we have Hillary Clinton. Miss Killary is what they call her. Desperately needed a distraction from her private server scandal, so she's involved in this too. Then we have James Comey, the then FBI director, who ran the witch hunt with the subtlety of a wrecking ball. Like, it just was so obvious. Then you also had John Brennan. He was the CIA director who briefed Obama and likely coordinated the intelligence angles. We cannot forget Susan Rice. She wrote a conveniently timed memo to cover Obama's involvement on Inauguration Day, no less. And then crooked Joe Biden, okay, hairy leg Joe Biden. He is the I don't recall mascot of the Democrat Party. He was also in the meeting, and allegedly he suggested using the Logan Act against General Flynn. So y'all, none of this was politics as usual. Y'all, this was a coordinated operation, a domestic coup against a duly elected president, Donald J. Trump. Now, here's the latest twist in all of this. Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence, y'all, she turned this entire narrative on its head. So let me bring you up to speed. Just this month, Tulsi publicly referred Barack Obama and key members of his national security team to the Department of Justice, alleging that they orchestrated a treasonous conspiracy to undermine President Trump's 2016 victory, which is essentially what she called a years-long coup-like effort. So at the White House press briefing, let me tell you what she said. She goes, quote, "There is irrefutable evidence that details how President Barack Obama and his national security team directed the creation of an intelligence community assessment that they knew was false." So Tulsi then, she backs those claims by declassifying, y'all, not a few pages, over 100 pages of what she called explosive records. And it includes emails. It includes a 2020 House Intelligence Committee report. And the claim is that the Obama-era leadership knowingly pushed a false narrative to manufacture the idea that Russia favored Donald Trump. Now, in response, the Justice Department, they announced a strike force, and their goal is to sift through all of her allegations, and then they are going to decide if prosecution is warranted. And so I'm super excited about this. However, critics on the left, y'all, they were swift. You had a Barack Obama spokesman. His name is Patrick Rodenbush. He blasted the referral as, well, this is just bizarre. And he argued that the documents don't counter the widely accepted conclusion that Russia interfered in the 2016 election, or at least just not enough to change the votes. But meanwhile, the fact checkers, they pushed back and they said, well, Gabbard's case is built on a misleading interpretation of the declassified materials. And the intelligence community officials, they are maintaining that the original conclusions that Russia tried to undermine our process remain sound, even if they had caveats. So let's be clear. This isn't just another political accusation. This is a formal criminal referral from inside the intelligence apparatus. And all of the Obama-era figures, they are now under some serious scrutiny. And the Department of Justice, they have formed a special task force to evaluate all of the evidence. So you know what that means. It means that what was started out as a rumor and innuendo, they're now treating it like it's an actual legal matter. And the outcome of this it is going to shape how many of us understand what really happened from August of 2016 onward. There's a whole lot of you out there that's going to owe me and so many of my contemporaries an apology. You know who you are. I ain't going to call your name out publicly, but you know who you are. And then the other thing, this is why this is not old news. If unelected bureaucrats and outgoing presidents can weaponize the intelligence community, falsify FISA warrants, and launch smear campaigns against their political opponents, y'all, America is no longer a constitutional republic. At this point, it's called a banana republic, and that is what should concern us. And so while Donald Trump was busy fixing the economy, closing and securing the border, and lowering Black unemployment to record lows, you do realize he could have chosen to retaliate, but he didn't. I want you to listen to this clip where he says from his own mouth, I didn't want to weaponize the DOJ. He had every right to, but he didn't. Take a listen to this.
Just a continuation of the witch hunt. The witch hunt that you should be talking about is they caught President Obama absolutely cold, Tulsi Gabbard. What they did to this country in 2016, starting in 2016, but going up to 2020 in the election. They tried to rig the election, and they got caught. And there should be very severe consequences for that. When we caught Hillary Clinton, I said, you know what? Let's not go too far here. It's the ex-wife of a president, and I thought it was sort of terrible. And I let her off the hook, and I'm very happy I did. But it's time to start, after what they did to me, and whether it's right or wrong, it's time to go after people. Obama's been caught directly. So people say, a group. It's not a group. It's Obama. His orders are on the paper. The papers are signed. The papers came right out of their office. They sent everything to be highly classified. Well, the highly classified's been released. And what they did in 2016 and in 2020 is very criminal. It's criminal at the highest level. So that's really the things you should be talking about.
Y'all heard what he said. He ain't weaponized the DOJ. He didn't lock up Hillary, which he probably should have. He let it all go. He let it go because he was like, you know what, this is for the good of the country. So I'm not gonna be like them. I'm gonna let this go. But after 2020, these crazy people didn't stop. They threw every bogus indictment, the FBI raid, the slanderous headlines. They threw everything at him. And yes, according to some, they even tried to have him killed. I'm not saying the Democrats were behind that, but it actually happened. There was an actual assassination attempt on his life. And after all of this, Trump is like, yeah, I'm done playing nice. The gloves are off. And I'm like, you know what? It's about time. It is about time. They play dirty. So now you got to do what you got to do, Don. Here's the point. The whole illusion of Obama, what they sold us versus what we got, has to be examined. So we need to actually talk about Obama for a second. And I want to have a very real conversation here because I don't think we really understand how much of a psyop that wicked man was. You guys, I remember when Barack Obama first hit the national stage back in 2008. We got that speech at the DNC. We got the smooth voice, right? The confidence he was exuding, his message of hope and change. And we need to be honest. Y'all, folks were captivated. Okay, even folks who don't normally care about politics were glued to their TVs thinking, he might be our guy. Maybe this guy is different and he's going to do right by this country. Because at the time, he was young. He was incredibly polished, full of charisma. And yes, he came cloaked in a whole lot of melanin. Okay, he was black, right? And so that meant something to a lot of us. There was this sense of pride. And like many of us, we were like, you know what? This feels like some progress. Like we actually felt like we had arrived. But here's the truth that nobody wanted to admit back then. Some of us saw it. Kudos to you if you saw right through the BS. A lot of us didn't. We did not vet him. At least not really. If you were a liberal back then like I was, I know I didn't vet him because pretty much I was just politically ignorant. I just didn't know any better. We did not vet Obama. We didn't ask enough questions. And the questions that we did ask, we didn't press deep enough. We didn't want to dig too deep into his background. We didn't want to press too hard about what is it that this man actually believes. We weren't even interested in who were his mentors. Who were the people that were shaping him? Because doing that felt like we were somehow betraying the movement, as if just like, see, the first black guy, and now y'all don't even trust him. We can't catch a break. But if you did look, if you were one of those that were listening and were looking, it was all there all along. Barack Obama wasn't just some moderate Democrat with a nice smile and a black wife and 2 little black kids. No, that wasn't it. This man was deeply influenced by Marxist thinkers. His mentor growing up was Frank Marshall Davis, who was a literal communist. That cannot be denied. Barack started his political career in the living room of Bill Ayers and Bernadine Dorn. This was a domestic terrorist who bombed the U.S. buildings in the 1970s. This is who this man was connected to. But we ignored that. We ignored that because the hope and change made us feel good, right? And so once he got into office, that's when the mask came off. It all started to show. His policies never were really about lifting up people. All of his policies were about growing government, spreading dependency, just blurring the lines, right, between truth and ideology. And he used the language of fairness and equity. But what he really meant, what he was really pushing was control. We got this old funky Obamacare that was pushed down our throats that nobody wants. And when you examine Obamacare, it didn't make healthcare more affordable. All it did was just force people into a broken system. And then he stoked the racial division after events like the Trayvon Martin situation in Ferguson. He just stoked the flames of division even more. He emboldened the LGBTQ movement, right? Just gave them the ammunition that they needed to be all out there with their freak, nasty, perverted selves. He redefined marriage, and he used executive orders to get around the Constitution when it suited him. This was a very wicked man and a horrible presidency. And all the while this was happening, the media protected him like he was royalty. Protected him. Any sort of criticism, shut down. You're racist. You criticize Obama, you are racist. And if you have questions, they shut those down too, because you were either for him or you were a bigot. There was no room for nuance. There was no room for discernment. And so looking back now, I think a lot of people, we feel duped. We were sold this beautiful idea, but it came with a price, and the price that was paid was a heavy one. Because all of that hope and change he talked about, no, we got deception and division. And that first black president label, y'all, they used that as a shield. It was this protective force field shield that was used not to protect the people, but to protect the agenda. And so as I'm looking into all of this, one of the biggest questions I had was, I said, well, shoot, I'm glad this is happening. I'm glad the referral is being made. Shout out to Tulsi for a job well done. But the question now is, what do you think is going to happen to Barack Obama and the rest of these political operatives? Like, is anything going to be done? Are they going to be held accountable? Will they have to defend themselves in a court of law the way they dragged President Trump through courtrooms for years? I'm just asking. And more importantly, the question is, should they? And so let me be very clear so that y'all know where I stand. Absolutely. Yes, they all should be persecuted. Lock them, every last one of them up. Every single one of them who was involved in fabricating the intelligence, who weaponized the federal agencies, and who orchestrated an attempted coup against a sitting president, they need to face justice. It is the most anti-American thing that I've ever witnessed in my lifetime. Because we're talking about the highest abuse of power that this country has ever seen. Far worse than Watergate. And it was far more coordinated than anything the media has ever accused Donald Trump of. These wicked people, they didn't just break the law, they have shattered the public's trust in government. And this is why I told you, I ain't sharing custody of my children with the government. I don't trust the government, period. Because all they did was use propaganda and power to silence dissenters. They punished their opponents in real time, and they did it all so they could protect their agenda at all costs. It was all to protect them. And so if we believe in equal justice under the law, then that justice needs to swing both ways, and they need to be prosecuted. Donald Trump was raided and indicted, slandered. He's still being slandered, investigated for years, all over a bunch of lies. So if that is the case, why should Barack Obama be exempt from scrutiny? Is it because he speaks well and he wears a tailored suit? Is it because he checks off all the right identity boxes? He's kind of black and we think he might be gay? I'm just saying, that is not how justice works, or at least that is not how it should work. If the Department of Justice, if they want to have any credibility going forward, it is going to have to lie and their ability and their desire to pursue these allegations with the same intensity and the same zeal and veracity that they showed in targeting Donald Trump. No more excuses. I'm done with the excuses. No more delays. The evidence is on the table and the documents have been declassified. The referrals have been made. So now it is time to act. I want to see some action. And then let me say this. This entire scandal is proof positive that the evil Democratic Party, they should never hold power in this country again. And I'm not saying that because I tend to vote Republican. I'm saying that because as a Christian and an American patriot who believes in truth and law and liberty, that what we're seeing from these freak nasty Diddycrats, it is completely unraveling. Their wickedness is on full display to where it can no longer be hidden. It's out there for all of us to see. And if they've told us time and time again that, no one's above the law, well, we've seen them lie, cheat, steal, and even frame a president to preserve their power. This needs to serve as a warning to all of us. Evil thrives when it is not confronted. And so silence is no longer an option. We can't be quiet. We need to confront this evil and then hold these evil people accountable. But as I wrap this up, I'm curious to know, what do you guys think? What do you think should happen? Should Barack Obama and his whole crew finally be held to the same legal standard as the rest of us? Or if you're like, I just want to put this behind us because it's in the past and we need to let bygones be bygones, right? Whichever side of this discussion you land on, I want to hear from you. Leave me a comment, share this episode. Let's keep raising the alarm because listen, the truth don't tremble and neither do we. So I'm curious to know what you think. Leave me a comment down in the box below. And until next time, you guys, stand firm, stay bold, and above all else, stay unshakable. Grace and peace.